Okay, the event is starting. Hello, I want to welcome you. We are gathered here talking to Truthseeker Jeff from over in Kolkata, the cultural capital of India. Mr. Truthseeker, what's going on? We are talking here about your chief minister, Mamata Banerjee, who she looks like she's basically, the Rita Repulsa of India or of West Bengal, more correctly. So I did two articles discussing this topic, and to be honest with you, I don't know if this is like the worst place in the world, but it does seem like she's taken like a great resource, the one of the more fertile areas of India, and it's kind of become, she's run it into the ground. But to my understanding, and I go through this in the article, which I call A Kingdom of Authoritarian Decay, India was under the control of the Communist Party of India under, what was his name? Jyoti
Jyoti
Basu
Basu.
and Buddhadev Bhattarjee for about 30, 31 years, 34 years, something like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was 34 years.
who really ruined West Bengal? Was it the previous series of people, or is Banerjee like taking it to a new low?
See, the decline of Bengal has been going on for a long, long time. After during partition
Or
when Bengal
about
was split
30,
into
31 years,
Bangladesh and West
34 years?
Bengal, basically that's when it started. Then it was then the Congress party came into power in West Bengal, and they and the Congress party has a long history of corruption. They did not uh, sort of what do you call they did not do anything for the people, for the upliftment of the people, so to say. And that led to the rise of like communism and extremist left wing extremism, and followed by 34 years of communist rule that pretty much destroyed the economic setup of that place, and the infrastructure did not expand. So, and followed by Mamata Banerjee, who has actually, to take your point, yeah, that is correct, that she has definitely taken it to a new low.
So to tell the viewers, why are we talking about West Bengal specifically? Well, India was partitioned back in 1947 by Lord, what was his name? Lord Mountbatten, the final viceroy of the British Raj, and basically the largest portion of the Raj was India, the Dominion of India, which was supposed to be a secular nation, and then of course there was Pakistan and East Pakistan, West and East Pakistan. You can see on the map. East Pakistan is now the nation of Bangladesh, which was formed in 1971 through a brutal, one of the most bloody wars that we never hear about. And I even see reports that up to 3 million people were killed, civilians, just the civilians. So in 1947, however, there was a proposal to form a united Bengal between East and West. It wouldn't have been partitioned into East Pakistan. It would have just been an independent nation of Bengal. Um, Truth Seeker, why would you say that that plan fell apart? Do you think that there would have been a viable nation formed of just Bengal, East and West, or would it have like gone down in flames and had possibly civil wars like Sri Lanka did?
See, the whole reason why Bengal was partitioned was because of the Hindu and the Muslim divide between the Hindus and the Muslims. Hindus were and still are very wary of Muslims because of uh, because of 1,000 years of slavery and genocide under the Muslims have taught the Hindu community very harsh lessons, for which the Islamic community in India still today, till date, has not apologized for. The British have apologized for the colonial rule. The Muslims have not. So even at that time, the divide was even greater. The anger was even greater. And and at that point of time, it was thought that to protect the interests of Hindus living in Bengal, it would be better to partition it into East Pakistan and West Bengal, right? But the to protect the Hindus, because they carved it out of the Hindu majority areas. Even then, uh, there was a need for population exchange and all that, but basically it came from the Hindu-Muslim divide. That's where the partition of Bengal comes.
Right. And what I would say is that I've had discussions with somebody who, you know who I'm talking about, who he relates to other conflicts, especially the Israel-Palestine conflict. He says religion does not play a part in it. And I would say that religion, you can disdain religion, but it is a part of these conflicts, including that conflict over there in Palestine and Israel, and in India especially if you think about Sri Lanka, which isn't it between Hindus and Buddhists, who do have a slight language difference between Sinhalese and Tamils. Over in Bengal, it's people, they speak virtually the same Bengali language, Bangla, but they, some of them are Hindu, the others are Muslims. So essentially, so they split off. It becomes East Pakistan. 1971, the East Pakistani people are, they've had enough of being basically the redheaded stepchild of Pakistan, because they're basically under the occupation of the forces from Islamabad over in the west part of Pakistan. Islamabad, if you see my cursor, is around here. Um, and then essentially there's a massive humanitarian crisis. I believe I had, there was where did I have this? There was a massive refugee crisis pouring especially um, Hindu Bangladeshis into India that's never been resolved. The people who are the descendants or the actual survivors of that refugee crisis, how have they fared in your experience?
See, because Bengal was under communist rule for the longest time, not much preference was ever showed to Hindus or Hindu migrants for that matter. Islamic migrants were always shown preference to the point that they would issue citizenship cards, identity cards, voter cards, ration cards, uh, gas consumer cards, identity cards to these people, even though they had crossed over illegally, just for votes. So till and for the longest time there was also the issue of the borders needed to be resolved, because there were pockets of land which were not known whether they were Bangladesh or India, and it was a bureaucratic nightmare of the Bangladesh India border. So considering all this, right? Considering all this, See, Hindus have never ever been given priority in Bengal because of the left. That's the basic fundamental point. And that is what has led to the crisis in Bengal as it uh, stands today. Because even though it's a crisis and that many people have lost their lives, it stems from the fact that Hindus are fed up. And Mamata Banerjee understands this, and that's why she's backed into a corner, trying to sort of um, trying to salvage any chance of a re-election, because the party at the center, with BJP, is like basically like now edging her out of her own territories. They've increased their vote share, tripled it in fact, and the situation looks grim for her politically.
We're joined right now by Jeffrey Allen Johnson, so say hi to Truthseeker Jeff and Larry Gerke, of course. Um, it says here that they just got the notification. I find that like really irritating with YouTube. Maybe it's because they just low priority the smaller channels. But in any case, it says here there were an estimated 5 million um, people who fled from East Pakistan between partition. Actually, yeah, between partition and the Liberation War of 1971. So those are that's a refugee crisis people don't care about. That's why I've had arguments with people. They claim that they care about refugees. They don't give a shit about them. In reality, and you know when I say that, I'm just saying that we're also joined by Arjun Sinha in the chat. But so in any case, there's an issue here where I'm talking about um, is every refugee crisis equal to another? I would have to say that in the eyes of social activists, it's not, because nobody is calling for the restoration of the property and lands of these Hindu and Muslim Bangladeshis who fled to to West Bengal. They'll very happily do the same thing with the Palestinian refugees. They'll do it sometimes with refugees from countries like Sudan sometimes. But in reality, there are refugee crises that will never be solved because there's actually no political will to do it, and geopolitics does not allow that. Now let's get a little more into Mamta Banerjee. So she is the first. Now a lot of people think that she is like a. I guess when she was elected, that she would be a symbol of progress for West Bengal and possibly for India at large. But the fact of the matter is that she comes from the Indian National Congress. The Indian National Congress is basically the piggy bank of the Gandhi family. Not necessarily talking about Mahatma Gandhi, but more so his. I think it would be more his relatives from marriage, I guess. Um, what wasn't Nehru related to Gandhi, and then he married a different Gandhi family? Is that how it worked?
No, no. Mahatma Gandhi was different. He was from Gujarat. He went to South Africa, then came back. But the Gandhis who run the Indian National Congress today, they basically Nehru's daughter Indira. She married a Parsi guy called no, not Parsi. I think it's a Muslim guy called Firoz Gandhi, and then divorced him later. But she kept the name, so that's how the name Gandhi comes. I'm not sure whether it was Parsi or Muslim. I'm not sure. But Firoz Gandhi was a different Gandhi altogether. He was
Okay, so
basically
people conflate the Gandhi family with Mohandas Gandhi, known as Mahatma popularly. And in reality, it's not exactly. I mean, it's kind of, this is a different Gandhi family. They married into Nehru's family in the back several decades ago, and in fact, the current head of the Congress, what's his name? Is his name Rahul Gandhi or
yeah.
yeah? So his mom was Sonia Gandhi, who was an Italian woman who married Rajiv Gandhi, and that's how you get ahead in India, buddy. So I want you to send a message to the Gandhi family. I am also available, and I will take the position of Toastmaster or Brewmaster General or something. But in any case, she came from this Congress party, which has been basically the powers that be in India for as since partition and independence, and essentially back in the late 90s when the Congress started to really fall apart through other corruption scandals, she broke away and formed the Trinamool Congress. Can you tell me? I was struggling to read through exactly what is the difference in vision between the TMC, the Trinamool Congress, and the Indian National Congress. Is there a difference, or am I really, is it just basically a different club?
First of all, Jeff Lee Allen Johnson says there's something wrong with my audio. Is there something wrong with my audio?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, you are a little spotty, man.
Uh, okay.
Are you using Bluetooth?
No, not Bluetooth. But I guess I have to get closer. How's my audio now?
It's a little better. It's better. It's better when you It's better when you talk closer to the monitor for some reason.
Okay. Now how about now?
I can hear you fine. Let's see how Larry and Jeff think.
Anyway, so basically the fact of the matter is that uh, just remind me of what the question was again.
Okay, so the TMC, the Trinamool Congress, was formed by Banerjee back in the late
Mhm.
'90s, and she made a lot of success fighting against the Bhattacharjee government
Mhm.
and a lot of its own corrupt dealings with the Tata Motors deal, where they used eminent domain. The communists used eminent domain. Listen up, everybody. I do want to tell this story, so this is a long question, but I'll get to the question in a second. The Communist Party of India, Marxist. So there's like five other communist parties there or something. There's like a whole, you know, it's like there's basically you ever see those umbrella buckets when you leave the door? So they have an umbrella bucket when you leave the house in India. Which Communist Party you want to go out with? The Communist Party Marxist or the Communist Party, clueless. So then
Mhm.
there's so the CPIM, they they confiscated the land of a bunch of peasants, peasant farmers, and gave it to Tata Motors, which is a fairly large motor company in India, producing automobiles. And then the company just pulled out and said, for some reason, we don't want to open our facility. So they basically had kicked those people off their land already and built a number of structures over there, and then there was nothing to do with it. So she gained a lot of prominence through her efforts to fight the Tata Motors deal, and then she comes to power in 2011. But what really is the difference between the TMC on the West Bengal level, the Trinamool Congress, and the Indian National Congress on the federal level, which has been linked to a lot of corruption scandals in the past?
See, ideologically, not nothing much, because like Congress is the International Congress is a party which sort of, I don't know. It's like pay to play. Like there is no fixed ideology. Whatever you can pay for, that's the ideology. That they're like that. Officially stated position is from independence onwards that they're a socialist party, but there is hardly anything. Neither is there anything socialist about them, nor is there anything definitively ideological about them, except for the fact that they're corrupt. Because the, throughout their political history, they have changed positions left and right without much thought to political perception. And as far as Mamata Banerjee comes, she came up as an activist sort of person, then joined the Congress, and then split with it for infighting, because of infighting. And there was no, as far as she's concerned, as it is evident today, there is no uh, fixed political ideology behind what she does, except for the fact that she supports minorities. Because, and that is evidenced from the fact that she started in the Congress, but now through her many activities, she is proving day by day that she is more left than the left. So, ideologically speaking, there is not much difference between Mamata Banerjee and the Congress. It is just branding, I guess.
Right, and she did do a number of reforms that I can't write an article about somebody without kind of giving a bit of balance. So she did have a number of accomplishments. The one of them was that there was a separatist crisis in the north in Gorkha land, where the
Hmm.
ethnic Nepali Indian minority wanted greater administrative control over the remote regions. So people don't the Gorkhas, or in Britain I think they're called Gurkhas, are a
They
little
are
they're
Gurkhas.
they're a different ethnic group. They're not necessarily I don't think they speak Bangla. They speak more of like a
They speak
Himalayan.
Nepali. Yeah,
Right.
they speak that Nepali Hindi kind of mix.
So she gave them a little more autonomy over there in the north. And then there was a huge labor dispute over in, especially with the teachers, where they were I mean, the teachers were striking under the communist leadership over there. And she was able to solve it by guaranteeing pay on the first day of every month and lowering the retirement age for the teachers. And then the final one is that she declared this district of Nadia the first open defecation-free area in all of India. So it's the first place where you go and you're not allowed to take a dump on the street, I guess, which is it is a big deal for public health. You know, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
But aside for that, a lot of the things she's done are, just, they're basically
Cosmetic.
Yeah, cosmetic, and she's also become very what would you call it? Nepotistic, and she's very close to a lot of these speculative businesses that are paying under the counter to members of the TMC. One of them is the Sarada Group, which fell apart in 2013 in a chit fund scandal. Chit funds are sort of there was a good video, by the way, about it that I could show if you want.
Okay.
That demonstrates how chit funds even work, because we don't have those in the U.S. We don't, or maybe we have something like it. We don't call it a chit fund, but I'll pull it up. Chit fund explained. So this was very interesting. I actually sent this video to Soon Fei Yang, who we've had on before, and I was wondering. I was asking him, do you think that this is something that could work in the U.S.? But he wasn't really. I think he was busy. So we'll hear this video.
Karan and Arjun were childhood friends. Karan was well educated and holding a good job.
Wait, you can't hear this anyway. Let me send this to you, okay?
Yeah.
Jeff. Okay, so you have that video, and we'll start from the beginning again.
Karan.
You ready?
Yeah.
And Arjun were childhood friends. Karan was well educated and holding a good job, but had plans to start a venture to sell fresh food to corporates online. For this, he needed capital, and banks and financial institutions charged too high a rate of interest. Arjun was an MBA and was earning a good salary. He has no intention to start a venture of his own, but he is looking to save his earnings in a medium where he can earn good interest and can withdraw whenever he needs money. Karan needed a seed capital of 8 lakhs for his business immediately. He couldn't afford to wait and accumulate the amount for seed funding. He was wedged in between private money lenders and banks for loans, but none offered him a good alternative, since both options.
But why do they have the banker with the Hitler mustache? That's kind of funny. But yeah, that's
artistic choices, bro.
Yeah,
artistic choices.
He looks like a Muslim with a Hitler mustache. Anyway,
would require him to put up an asset as collateral. These loans accrue hefty amounts of interest, which even surpass the principal. Furthermore, these loans are product-oriented in nature, so one cannot divert the funds of one loan towards something else. On the other hand, Arjun was also finding it difficult to find an all-in-one investment scheme which would allow him to preserve cash, get good returns, and
What's that?
The Hitler mustache is quite funny.
Yeah.
withdraw money without any losses. No options were apt. Bank saving accounts offer very limited interest yield and have minimum balance and other withdrawal limitations. Fixed deposits have penalties on premature withdrawals. They also lock up money for a long tenure, thus costing the investors many opportunities. And mutual funds and shares are risky and unpredictable, with no guaranteed returns. They were all unpleasant choices. Since time immemorial, one financial instrument has always come to the rescue: chit funds. Chit funds are a unique combination of saving cum loan investment. That is, investors can save money in them and at the same time borrow anytime the need arises. Moreover, there is no interest charged on borrowing, and one can borrow whenever and for whatever purpose. In these, a group of contributors pool in a fixed sum of money every month, and through competitive bidding, each contributor gets to win the pot once. Karan and Arjun decided to invest in a government-approved, registered chit fund scheme. Their chit fund scheme included 40 members who had to contribute rupees 20,000 every month for 40 months, with the jackpot being worth 8 lakhs every month, which would go to one member via competitive bidding till all 40 members get to take the pot home once. Karan and Arjun contributed 20,000 rupees each in the first month. Since Karan needed funds urgently, he decided to participate in the bidding process in the first month itself. Karan decided to forego the maximum limit permitted of 25% and won the pot, thereby taking back the amount of 6 lakhs. From the remaining 2 lakhs that Karan had foregone, the foreman kept his fixed monthly commission, that is 5% of the chit value, and distributed the remaining 1.6 lakhs, that is the dividend, among all 40 members, thus reducing every member's obligatory monthly contributions. Karan used this amount to establish his restaurant. He couldn't bid for the remaining months, but he continued to contribute his share of 20,000 rupees minus the dividend every month. There arose no emergency for Arjun, so he patiently waited till the last month and got to take back the entire pot minus 5% foreman's commission. This way, Arjun earned an extra amount since he didn't have to forego any amount like others, and also earned healthy monthly dividends from amounts foregone by other bidders. This way, by investing in a registered chit fund, both Karan and Arjun overcame their financial dilemmas. Chit funds gave them freedom over the usage of funds, a lump sum of money for emergencies with no interest, handsome returns from dividends, and built in them the habit of savings. Karan gained competitive advantage and made profits by expanding his business from time to time. And Arjun reinvested the amount he got by lending at high interest rates. A chit fund is a good and most underrated financial tool in India. It's important to recognize its potential in expanding people's economic horizons.
Okay, I have the video finished. Are you done too?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems a little like fanciful, but a lot of people in parts of India, they don't have access to a local bank because there is no branch there. And also within cities themselves, it's not like the entire city has great banking facilities. Of course, we talk about lending discrimination in the USA. I mean, there's probably something like that in India based on all sorts of different factors, which we could probably discuss a different time. So these chit funds are a good tool for a lot of these smaller investors slash people who want to use their savings or get a loan. However, a number of these have been involved in horrible scandals. One of them was the Sarada Group, which turned out to be a Ponzi scheme that duped investors out of between 200 and 300 billion rupees, which is $4 to $6 billion. And so, in any case, this one brought down the transport minister. Was this the transport minister of India or West Bengal, Midan Mitra?
Madan Mitra. It's not Midan, it's Madan.
Oh, okay.
MATA. So Madan Mitra was the transport minister for West Bengal.
So he was involved in this. He was basically taking money from them, if I'm not mistaken. And In fact, the rest of the West Bengal government under Mamata Banerjee, they were pretty well sewed up with Sudipta Sen, who was the owner of the Sarada group, to the point where him and his officials were actually using police motorcycles to drive around the city. So that's pretty badass, if I can say that. But he is in jail now, right? Is Sudipta Sen, was he convicted
Yeah.
or? Okay.
No, you see, the investigation he's been charge sheeted, but the investigation is still going on.
Okay. But is he incarcerated or is he?
Yeah, he's in jail.
Okay. So, 3 years later, this saga had still tremendously hurt the reputation of the chit fund model, which we just went over. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
so a lot of people, not just poor people, but some middle class people, they use it kind of as a way to garner more interest. Unfortunately, in January 2017, another TMC politician, the member of parliament for West Bengal, Sudeep Bandyopadhyay, did I say his
Sudipta
name right?
Bandyopadhyay,
Yeah, he was
Sudipta Bandyopadhyay. Call him Banerjee. You can call him Sudeep Banerjee.
Sudeep Banerjee. Yeah, so he was arrested in connection to the Rose Valley chit fund scam. Very similar situation there. And that it's not just the chit fund thing. And I'm not this isn't this isn't MSNBC where we attack a financial model. I mean, the chit fund model, there's a lot of chit funds out there. So I guess people have to really do their research if you're watching from India. I kind of wonder why we don't have something similar in countries besides India, but maybe it's a local type of business. So the fact is that there's a journalist group called Tehelka, run by Matthew Samuel, where he actually filmed a number of people, members of parliament for the TMC, accepting bribes. He formed a fake company, like certain people that we know do that, and and he just he just took a camera and filmed them. And it was called the Narada sting operation, and this included a lot of people, related to Banerjee, also with the Odisha, or in the colonial times it was called the Orissa, right? The chief minister Naveen Patnaik. He's also been implicated in it. One of the reasons the Narada scandal cannot be as directly attributed to political persecution is that Samuel had in the past exposed the rival Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, of corruption in Operation West End in the early 2000s. So I do know, Arjun, you're a little more sympathetic to the BJP, but the fact is that there is corruption in other parties, not just the Congress, not just the TMC. However, in this case with this journalist, you can't accuse him of being a partisan lackey of Modi, because back in the early 2000s, his big break was exposing BJP corruption. So when you're reading, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Tehelka is an interesting outlet. Okay, they did come into the limelight with when they stung Bangaru Lakshman, that time the president of the National Committee of BJP, for accepting a bribe. After that, Tehelka was hired by the Congress to fix Modi. Tehelka has been a Congress-leaning organization for a very long time, and the fact is that the very fact that they they did this sting operation, stinging TMC, is basically trying to get into the good graces of the BJP, because BJP was coming after Tehelka hard, right? Their owner had been arrested. Tarun Tejpal had been arrested for rape allegations and all that. So, and he was in jail for a long time for that. So BJP was really getting at Tehelka for false journalism, trying to fix Modi, bunch of other fake news reporting and all that. Because there was an understanding apparently between the Tehelka ownership and the Congress party led by Sonia Gandhi at that time, to try and defame Modi as much as possible, right? And Tehelka doing this thing is basically they're trying to ingratiate themselves to the BJP to sort of minimize the damage that BJP would do to them. On the other hand, as far as the chit fund scam is concerned, most of Mamata's second rung leaders are either under investigation or in jail already. Madan Mitra was in jail for more than a year, I think. It was in 12, 13 months he was in jail. And as far as the investigation is concerned, the central agencies are investigating them. They've almost come up with a rota. Like Monday they're investigating one cabinet minister, Tuesday another, Wednesday another. It's like that. So basically, this is all being this is all being done to sort of defame Mamata as much as possible, finish her off politically, and then to take any action that is that would be necessary against her for her basically allegedly criminal activities. Now, Naveen Patnaik is connected to this in a way that BJP was at that time trying to expand its footprint in Bengal, and it served them very well to sort of defame Naveen Patnaik also. It's like two birds with one stone. And to this is connected the Gorkhaland issue, which basically was started by the BJP only. The BJP incited the Gorkhas to sort of rebel against Mamata to create a bad PR situation for her. This is what one can read between the lines, that basically the Gorkhaland rebellion was being uh, sort of supported by the BJP, and Mamata was trying everything she could do to sort of quell it. Right. So all those reforms that you were talking about that she brought in for the Gurkhas was basically to sort of it was a peace offering, so that like a portion of her state would not be carved away.
We're
So
joined.
these are all the political machinations which are going on behind the scenes of the actual the thing on the face of it, which is the scam. The scam is basically a sort of a tool to sort of politically drive out all these people. BJP can dismiss the Mamata government today for all her crimes, but the fact is they are not doing it because they want to defame her and finish her off politically before they take any action.
So we have this is Truthseeker Jeff joining us today. We're talking about West Bengal for those of you that may have joined late, and we're talking about. I mean, West Bengal was partitioned as part of the partition, and of course there is a Muslim minority within India at large, and now also a Muslim minority within West Bengal. And the cartoon you're seeing here is making fun of the concept of India as a secular country. And you have the SIMI, the Students Islamic Society of India, which is a terrorist group, by the way. I mean, they call themselves they call themselves a students group, but they're not. I mean, they're really studying, demolitions, really. And then you have the Bajrang Dal, which is a Hindu militant group, and there really is this sense that I'm getting that secularism in India has been, in a certain sense, it's been foisted on a population that the majority of Indians, they believe in one religion or another religion. There's not a strong tradition of secular society, even under the British. A lot of the upper class Indians, they may have been Muslim and assimilated into British society, or Hindu, or maybe perhaps converted to Catholicism or one of the other Christian sects that would have their missions in India. So, in any case, institutional corruption is not the only reason that Banerjee's time in power is considered to be a period of malaise. Like the Congress on the national level, Banerjee's TMC promotes a secularist vision for West Bengal that supposedly integrates Muslims and Hindus alike into a cohesive society. This idealistic point of view has been difficult for Hindus to continue supporting in the face of the historic wars with Pakistan, terror attacks by homegrown Muslim groups, as well as intercommunity violence throughout India, including West Bengal. Whereas the separated nations of Pakistan and Bangladesh explicitly reduce religious minorities to a status that is effectively second class, India has attempted to maintain at least a semblance of separation of state and religion in historic Bengal, itself divided along religious lines, as discussed in part 1. So I have links to both parts of my Steemit articles. This remains a major issue given the deaths of as many as 3 million people, many of them Hindus, during the Bangladesh War of Liberation from Pakistan. So we're talking about civilians. We're not talking about military deaths. There were military deaths too. During that conflict, the East Pakistan government relied on the help of local Bengali Islamic fanatics like Ghulam Azam's Jamaat al-Islami, which is a fully jihadist group, and the collaborator militias known as the Razakars, in order to perpetrate a reign of terror on the separatists, in particular the Hindus among them. The violence, though not as well documented as other genocides, attracted the attention of U.S. Senator Ted Kennedy, Mr. Chappaquiddick, and British musician and Hindu convert George Harrison, who penned the song Bangladesh. And then he had the concert for Bangladesh, which was a very big event back in 1971. But between partition in 1947 and the Liberation War in 1971, millions of East Bengali refugees had fled from the... So you're not seeing people fleeing from West Pakistan to Pakistan, from West Bengal to Pakistan. It's always the other way. They fled to the Pakistani enclave for various reasons, whether it was the 1964 East Bengal riots in response to the theft of the holy relic of Hazrat Bal in Kashmir, or the general lack of civil rights led to the flight of an estimated 5 million to West Bengal and the rest of India. So that incident with the holy relic of Hazrat Bal, I want the audience to understand what it is. There is a shrine in Kashmir where there was reputed to be a hair from the beard of the Prophet Muhammad. And in 1964, there was an allegation that this Hindu person had stolen it. And that triggered one of the biggest ethnic cleansing incidents in Pakistani history, because they started rioting. They said, how could they take the hair out of the Prophet's beard? That's ours and whatever. And therefore, you have all these refugees, Hindu refugees, that have nothing to do with what's going on in Kashmir, which is, hours of flight away. What would it be? A 3-hour flight away?
So Kashmir.
Yeah.
Kashmir would be basically there's no direct flight to Kashmir from Calcutta. You have to go to Delhi first, from Delhi to Srinagar. So that's 2 separate flights.
Yes, so these people who tell me, this is not a matter of religion, it's a matter of civil rights and economic freedom, or it's bullshit. People believe in religions. You can say it's stupid, but they do, and that's the flaw with. And I'm not saying I believe that. I believe that Hinduism, there should be a religious theocracy in India. I'm just saying that there's a flaw with this whole secular model that's becoming obvious. That people don't understand that this is a country deeply connected to religious faith, the entire country of India, including West Bengal. As suggested above, in the late 1990s, the nation's Hindus that compose almost 80% of the population became to sour on the Congress, the INC, and secularism alike, and the BJP was able to gain a significant foothold and dislodge them by embracing Hindutva. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Hindutva is Hindu way of life, Hindu values. Yeah.
This religious and nationalist movement remains controversial as grassroots Indians think of the Hindu religion. Grassroots Indians of the Hindu religion tend to identify with it, whereas the media elite shun it as backward, kind of like in the United States with regards to Christian fundamentalism. In fairness, Hindutva militants of groups like the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh,
RSS.
Have contributed to much of the communal violence from the time of British imperial rule through the modern times. Yet the demonizing of Hindutva has caused the counterculture of those calling for the exposure of the bloodshed in India, not only under the British, but previously under the Muslim Mughal emperors, starting with Timur in the Middle Ages. Some people might know of him as Tamerlan. The Belgian Flemish anthropologist Konrad Elst, one of the most prominent Western authors on the Hindutva phenomenon, has called, and by the way, he's not a Hindu, he's Belgian, has called the secularism embraced by Banerjee, the Congress, and others as negationism and likens it to Holocaust denial. I think it's a fair comparison. I think it is fair because there was a lot, and I'm somebody, I say that, if you want to stop genocides, you have to actually discuss them and get to the root cause of why they happen. And in this case, it is religious fanaticism. That's why a lot of these Hindus get murdered. And then people will complain about Islamophobia. Well, if you don't want Islamophobia to happen, you have to acknowledge a lot of these Hindus have been murdered. So anyway, could you discuss that a bit? I mean, you live in India. I don't know how devout of a Hindu you are. And, obviously our religions, my religion and yours, they don't agree. But, in America, we believe in religious freedom. Over there in India, is there an abridgment of religious freedom for any of these groups, whether it's the Hindus, whether it's there are other Indian religions over there, such as the Jains. Is there total religious freedom like secularism would have promised, or is it kind of a charade?
Okay, let's start with the secularism bit, right? The Hindus are a very secular group. Now, that is a statement that I made. Now, people are going to ask me, okay, Arjun, how do you know that the Hindus are secular? Because for thousands and thousands of years, we have had religious migrants to our country, and who have to date survived with all their values intact. Right. After the Parsis were thrown out of Iran, they came here. To date, their community is flourishing in the sense that their values are intact. They have not been Hindufied, so to speak. The Israelites who got lost in the desert, who made their way to India, came and made a home here. We built them synagogues, we built them a lot of things, and they survived for many thousands of years before they emigrated elsewhere. There is a tribe of there's an ancient tribe of Jews that lives in the northeast called the Kuki tribe. Right? Rumor has it they're one of the 10 lost tribes of the Jews. They have lived in India for nearly 3,000 years, and to date they are intact. There is Hindu, first of all, to maintain religious freedom, you have to say that Hindus are converting to say that Hindus are not secular. Now, the fact of the fundamental matter of Hinduism is that Hinduism is a non-proselytizing religion. We believe that you have to be born Hindu to be Hindu, or you can just start following our way of life and you can become Hindu. You can sort of eventually, gradually become Hindu. But the fact is, we don't convert. We don't have a process of conversion. So to say that Hindus are infringing upon the freedoms of other minorities or other religions or other ethnic groups is a fallacy. For example, we have never even engaged in any form of slave trade, right? The Arabs and the British used to bring slaves to India and try and sell them to our kings, the African slaves. But the fact was, there is one story where one of the Gujarati kings, he felt so bad when that these slaves had been brought to his kingdom. What he did was he bought all those slaves and gave them villages to live in. And till date, they survive with all their values, language, customs intact. Only thing is they speak Gujarati, that's all. So Hindus have a long history of being secular. The person who wrote our constitution, Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, B.R. Ambedkar, he said, when he was asked that why didn't you put secular, because the word secular was not there in our constitution. He said Hindus are, when he was asked that why didn't he put the word secular in the constitution, he said that Hindus are inherently secular. There is no requirement to put it in the constitution. It was later put in by, I think, Indira Gandhi, who changed the preamble to include India as a sovereign, socialist, secular country, democratic republic, sort of like, yeah. So the whole secularism, what is today being referred to as pseudo secularism in India, is a movement created by the left as a sort of way to. It works in the same way as the left tries to guilt white people for slavery. So a similar movement is sort of trying to guilt us for our past, whatever. So that is the that is the fundamental thing about the secular movement in India.
So
And
if
as far
I'm
as
understanding
Pakistan,
it, the secular movement is almost uh, what I would call it is it sounds like some sort of cultural atheism that
yeah,
has been dripped onto the Indian society. Along with a lot of these same people are socialists. I wouldn't say, I mean, I'd say they're they're pretty soft socialists at this point because they also take a lot of bribes. But in any case, the issue I'm seeing here is that India, one of the issues that I have with the left leaning people is that they look at religion kind of as a joke, or at best as a tool in order to further their vision of a world without classes and borders and everything. And that's not the way religions work. In India, obviously, there is the Hindu religion. There's also a number of other local religions. There's Buddhism too. There's Muslims. And the whole paradigm that Indira Gandhi was trying to impose it was a charade. The fact of the matter is that under her rule, India did go to war with Pakistan a couple times. I think it was one time or it might have been even twice. And also, she had the whole thing with the Sikhs. So there's an issue here that people, you can laugh at people's beliefs. I don't know much about Sikhism anyway, but you can laugh at their beliefs, but don't try to take your vision of the society as you think it should be and make everybody else conform to it. That was her approach. That's the approach of the Congress Party. Do you see some of the same elements with Banerjee?
Mamata Banerjee would be an extreme version of that, right? She is more like, if the mafia became the government, it's like that, right? If Al Capone became the president of India with the entire mafia controlling the bureaucracy, what would have America become? So think of it in that manner. So Mamata Banerjee is sort of a mafia kind of person who 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 uses her sort of thuggery and intimidation to sort of get her way, right? Because because she is finding that there is definite pushback politically and socially against her policies. So as far as Mamata, if Mamata could, she probably, like, this is the feeling amongst the people that if she could, she would declare Bengal to be an Islamic republic. If she could.
Right, and there is the issue that we've discovered of BJP supporters dying mysteriously, if we could put it that way, alleged suicides, alleged not so suicides in parts of West Bengal, and there's certain issues here where the rule of law under Banerjee seems to have been slipping. In fact, there was a scandal regarding a terror plot in Burdwan that killed two Islamic terrorists who were building a bomb in their house. Those types of things, they're coloring her administration not just as one that is repressive, but also one that is incompetent. Um, and unfortunately, we're not talking about, in my opinion, is this the worst place in the world? Obviously, there's other ones that, I mean, we are going to talk about Venezuela a little later, but there is an issue here where West Bengal is being inundated by Bangladeshi refugees and illegal immigrants. They're also being, there's runaway. I mean, I think there is a debt crisis there when I was reading about it.
Yeah.
There's an issue of political intimidation. There's an issue of all these officials being put up on corruption charges, and that kind of it taints the image of Banerjee. The fact is that people will try to make this. I don't know. Maybe you know better than me. They will try to make this as some sort of sexist attack on her or some sort of other persecution on her. But the fact is that she is by no means a trailblazer in India as far as women's rights, or for that matter, the rest of the British Raj, the former British Raj. You have here a picture of Benazir Bhutto and Indira Gandhi back in 1972 during the negotiation of the Indo-Pakistani Simla Agreement, ending the Pakistani War. So you have, at that time, she was the Prime Minister of India, and Benazir Bhutto would later be, in the 80s and 90s, she would be a Prime Minister of Pakistan. She was assassinated in 2007. And every single country in the former British Raj has had a leader, a female leader. There was Gandhi, there was Sirimavo Bandaranaike, there was Bhutto, there was Khaleda Zia, the the wife of the Bangladeshi president, who became president, or no, she became prime minister. And then her arch enemy is Sheikh Hasina, who is also a woman who took power. And the majority of these people are relatives of dudes that were in power. Indira Gandhi, whose dad was Jawaharlal Nehru, considered by many to be the founder of modern India. Some people say he was kind of overrated, if I would say that. Bandaranaike was the widow of Solomon West Ridgway Bandaranaike, who was another major figure in the realm when it was called Ceylon. That was a British colony. And then there's also Aung San Suu Kyi of Burma, who's now, they're trying to revoke her Nobel Peace Prize because of what's happening with the Muslims in the Rohingya, who are basically Bangladeshis they were moved into Burma under the British. And because those people are fighting with the Buddhists and the Buddhists are winning, they're calling it a major genocide. And in the West, they're even publishing, oh, this is the worst genocide in the world. I mean, how do you establish that? In fact, the metrics of it, the numbers are like much, much smaller than what happened in Bangladesh in 1971. Much, much smaller. And, it's not like I'm saying you should treat people like shit because there's less of them. I'm just saying that, for Time Magazine, I think it was Time Magazine, it was Newsweek. I'll show you the headline. Newsweek.
See, another thing that UN doesn't mention is in its report that there were mass graves found where Rohingya Hindus were buried, who were killed by Rohingya Muslims who had been radicalized. That nobody mentions about the Rohingya crisis. That Rohingya Hindus, there were mass graves that were found. So yeah, there is definitely a sort of
Double standard.
A certain double standard is putting it mildly. I guess multiple standards would be closer. But the fact is, like recently, like yesterday or day before yesterday, the UN was slammed by the Indian government for declaring they were trying to basically send India a message for telling them that revoke AUSPA and give Kashmir to the Kashmiris, right? So India and in that report they referred to terrorists emanating from Pakistan as leaders, right? And terrorist outfits as outreach groups, something like that. So India slammed them by saying that what is this motivated report? So what the UN has to say is of very little value, because the UN has lost its credibility a long time back.
Yeah, the UN is
Right,
basically a travel agency for rapist peacekeepers to send to Africa to just rape people. They're a travel agency. They are a joke, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what to do about what's happening in Burma, but Newsweek is saying, does she still deserve the Peace Prize? This Aung San Suu Kyi, who lived under house arrest and constant threat of murder for 20, 25 years because of something that is an ethnic issue going on, and that transcends Burma's history. The fact of the matter is that Burma it's a Buddhist country, right? And there you have a Muslim minority, and that Muslim minority is trying to basically hype themselves as the new cause of human rights. But the fact of the matter is that these Buddhists did not become militant Islamophobes overnight, because if they did, then why were these Muslims ever able to get into Burma, Myanmar? Sorry, I don't want to get a strike for calling Myanmar Burma, but what I'm trying to get at is there is a huge cognitive dissonance about how to discuss religion. When it comes to Muslim peoples, it's almost treated as if they are a protected class, as if Islam needs to be handled with kid gloves. But the fact is that we live in a country. I do. I don't know about you, buddy, but we live in a country that was a lot of the founders before obviously independence were religious dissidents. They broke away from Christianity. You're talking about the Puritans, you're talking about the Quakers, you're talking about those people, and they wanted to leave religious orthodoxy and form, when we talk about a more perfect union, we're not talking about creating a country that is explicitly not Christian or explicitly not Muslim. We're talking about a society where religions are free to practice without encroaching on each other's freedoms. And that's not what these new activists against Islamophobia are doing. They're trying to paint it as an identity fight between the Muslim Indians and the Hindu Indians, or the Buddhist Myanmar people and the Rohingya. And then they get surprised when these things happen. It's like I didn't know if I threw gas on the fire it would flame up, and that's really the tragedy of this country. Arjun, I think we're going to move to close, and later we're going to have another discussion. You're free to join us too, Truthseeker Jeff. But ultimately, I do want people to read these articles on West Bengal. I'll let you have the last word. What do you think is the key to making the country, or making the state of West Bengal, back into the cultural capital of India, and perhaps one of the more prosperous states?
Okay, so there are 2 points here, right? The first point I wanted to make was, in closing, that you said that the left sort of looks at religion like a joke. They sneer at it, they snicker, like they take it, they treat you with amusement, that sort of thing. Yeah, but the truth is that the left is actually sort of against religion for a very different reason, right? Left portrays itself as an atheist sort of movement, but the fact of the matter is the left works exactly like a religion, right? If religious extremism can be called a theocracy, the left extremism can be called an atheocracy, right? They work exactly like uh, in exactly the same way, right? So the fact is that if for example, if you notice in theocracies where there is a religious theocracy, there is no communism or any left ideology. Where there is communism or any religious atheist sort of government, you will find there is no religion over there. They are like they cannot exist together. Now, the fact is that the left sort of looking to paint Muslims as victims is a sort of a devil's bargain that they have struck with the Muslims to sort of push their globalist agenda with a new kind of with the Muslims filling up the new victim narrative, that position, right? So it's a ideological hodgepodge in that. If you really, it's like a snake and mongoose have formed a partnership to sort of bring devastation to another sort of community. It's like that, because the communists and say for example hardcore Islamic uh, theocracies, they can't, like Islam and communism cannot coexist. That's a fact that has been proved several times. On the other hand, and as far as Bengal is concerned, what nationally there is a movement to go back to our roots. This Hindutva movement is basically part of a three-point agenda set by the BJP and the Prime Minister to sort of bring India back to the roots and move forward. Right. The three-point agenda is Hindutva, which is the majority values, Hindu way of life; development, which is economic and social development; and nationalism. Now, with this three-point agenda, Modi has basically destroyed the left nationwide. He has destroyed. The left has collapsed. There is nothing. There is barely anything of the left which is left. There is nothing of the left that is left. Left exists in pockets here and there, right? Recently, couple of months back, there was an election in Tripura, which had a communist party government for 25 years, and Modi came in with the BJP came in, won that election with more than two-thirds majority. So centrally, nationwide, the left is being destroyed in India systematically, politically. That I don't mean violently or anything like that, or through suppression. Politically, like through democratic means, and the left being rigid and an undemocratic force in itself is absolutely collapsing because it does not have a counter for these 3 points. Because the left does not work for the development of the people, neither socialism, neither social nor economic. Because they're against corporates, they're against economic, like the capitalists, they're against social development, they're more into vote bank politics. So that is harmful in terms of development. That is in fact not development at all. That is like poison for society. Nationalism, left cannot call itself nationalist because it has spent decades criticizing the constitution. It has spent decades criticizing the culture of the country itself, and it is utterly westernized. Because the Communist Party in India calls itself the Communist Party of India, right? Not the Indian Communist Party, which means they are the Indian branch of the Communist Party. So they don't even consider themselves Indian. They supported China when India went to war with China and lost that war. So the left is utterly undemocratic in that manner and utterly anti-national. And it cannot compete with Hindutva because it is atheism. India is a deeply religious country where atheism will never take root. That's why the left is losing, because atheism has never taken root. Because, say, in Western countries, where in many places, like in America, for example, race is an identifier. In India, religion is an identifier. People identify, the first thing people ask each other is what religion are. Like in America, they'll ask you what race. They do politics by race. In India, it's politics by religion. And the left is currently losing and collapsing. Mamata Banerjee is one of the last sort of leaders which is left standing of the left, right? And it is collapsing. The Congress is collapsing. The communist parties are collapsing. Their vote share is decreasing. Mamata Banerjee is sort of teetering on the edge. And there is nobody left in the left. So, and anytime the left comes out, there is a huge backlash on social media, over the news channels, because nobody wants to talk, because nobody's interested in negativity. Nobody's interested in politics of negativity and division. And that is the future. Connecting to in Bengal at least, because the Bengali people have been like voting left for a very long time. They've become like France, right? They've become very leftist like that, intellectually leftist. So it's a slow process, but even the Bengalis who are considered to be some of the most leftist people in India are now coming back into the fold of the BJP through this process of Hindutva, nationalism, and development, because they want development. Bengal is barren in terms of economic opportunities. It is barren in terms of social and cultural sort of. There are certain cultural things that will happen, but otherwise it is just a dry place as far as cultural festivities go. Imagine Calcutta to be a drier version of Paris. So that's what they brought it to. Now the BJP is trying to rejuvenate that. Yeah.
Okay, so you heard that. That was Truthseeker Jeff from Calcutta or Kolkata. as they call it now. And we will see Truthseeker Jeff possibly later if we can get the Venezuela stream going. It's probably not going to run on schedule, but keep your eyes out for that notification. I do want to tell people, the most important story I'm working on right now is the Mattis file, and there will be more repercussions of it, and there will be more investigations because the fact of the matter is you have to read through the news with a very you have to keep an eye out for that one detail where you see that something is really kind of fucked up there. So that's how we're doing it. I want you guys to read the Mattis file, share it. We were getting more attention than ever to it. We actually had one of TYT's people acknowledge it yesterday, Ryan Grimm. Unfortunately, he made a huge mistake. Truthseeker Jeff, I'll show you that later. And there will be more repercussions of it, but that does not mean that I'm going to ignore interesting stories happening in other countries, including India and West Bengal, which is a state of India. Of course, I always cover Nicaragua. I might be the only person on YouTube who covers Nicaragua, which is pathetic. If I'm the best representative of the Nicaraguan people on American media, then they really are screwed if they have to depend on people like me. But I am interested in it, and I'm interested in it because of cautionary tales and how we can, deal with America being involved in other parts of the world. I think it's better for us not to be involved in screwing with the affairs of a country like India, or for that matter, Pakistan, which we are doing. We are involved in Pakistan, America is. People don't want to acknowledge it. You can talk to them on the phone for 30 minutes and they won't acknowledge that we're involved in Pakistan and that we have a very problematic relationship with them. But I do hope it gets better there. I hope that Ms. Banerjee is peacefully retired from office, not in a violent way, because those of us that have YouTube channels don't believe in violence. Best of luck to you, Truthseeker Jeff.
Yeah. And by the way, about the Pakistan thing, we can have a discussion about Pakistan because there is lots we can discuss, lots that I can tell you from the Indian perspective about the relationship between US and Pakistan. So that's for another time.
Yeah, we could probably. I do want to write a little material about it too, so I'll be in touch with you.
All right.
I mean, you do know how to reach me anyway, but I'll talk to you later. So
yeah.
I'll message you a little later after I get a hold of Carlos, and we'll start. Excuse me, we'll start the Venezuela discussion too.
Sure.
All right.
See you guys.
Take it easy.